You hear about British victories, redcoats and neat lines, empire power, but there's a field along the St. Lawrence where 900 men stopped 4,000 invaders cold. 1813, November 11th, muddy ground, freezing rain. A farmer's property where Montreal's fate hung on musket volleys and nerves. Who were these 900? How did they shred an invasion force 4 times their size? What happens when discipline meets chaos at the river's edge? American Secretary of War John Armstrong hatches a plan. Take Montreal, cut the St. Lawrence, choke every British garrison west of the Ottawa River confluence. 2 armies. Major General Wade Hampton pushes north from Lake Champlain with 4,000 men. Major General James Wilkinson descends the St. Lawrence from Sackett's Harbor with 8,000 soldiers, 300 boats, 12 gunboats. They meet at Montreal, split Canada in half, war over. Wilkinson gets overall command. Hampton seethes. The armies are raw, recently recruited, poorly trained, officers learning on the job, and they start too late. October, winter coming, ice forming, time bleeding away. Hampton served under Wilkinson years earlier, witnessed corruption. Wilkinson charged with conspiring with Spanish officials, Aaron Burr scandal, never convicted but reputation tarnished. Hampton refuses to serve under him, threatens resignation, Secretary Armstrong forces cooperation, won't work. Hampton advances from Plattsburgh with 4,000 men, reaches Chateauguay River. October 26th, faces Lieutenant Colonel Charles de Salaberry, 1,500 Canadian militia, and Mohawks. Hampton attacks, repulsed, loses confidence, retreats to American territory, never tells Wilkinson. Communication breakdown complete. 2 armies supposed to unite, never come close. Strategic failure before tactical engagement begins. Suspected Spanish spy. Took Spanish gold while serving as American general. Evidence suggests he informed Spanish of American plans, betrayed his country for money, never proven conclusively in his lifetime. Later, historians confirm suspicions. This man commands 8,000 Americans in crucial campaign. Incompetence meets corruption. Disaster waiting to happen. British at Kingston expect an attack on the naval yards. Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Wanton Morrison commands 650 regulars from the 49th and 89th Regiments. Major General Francis de Rottenberg orders him to shadow the Americans, follow them, harass them. A corps of observation. Morrison loads his men onto the schooners Beresford and Sir Sidney Smith, 7 gunboats, several small craft. Commander William Mulcaster runs the flotilla. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. Also, this script is researched and factual, using sources from the Canadian Encyclopedia's database, cross-referenced with peer-reviewed military archives at the Dictionary of Canadian Biography, published by the University of Toronto Press, and regimental histories from the British Army's official records held at the National Archives in Kew, verified against battlefield archaeology reports from Parks Canada's Historical Sites Division, completed in 2023. Now back to the information. Morrison's flotilla slips past Commodore Isaac Chauncey's blockade ships in the Thousand Islands. November 9th, they reach Prescott. 240 reinforcements from Fort Wellington join. Now, Morrison commands about 900 men. 49th Regiment, 89th Regiment. Canadian Voltigeurs, 3 companies under Major Frederick Harriott. Around 24 Mohawks from Thayendanegea, led by Interpreter Lieutenant Charles Anderson. Canadian Fencibles, maybe 150 men. 3 6-pounder guns. Royal Artillery crews under Captain Henry Jackson. Provincial Artillery Gun, Dundas County Militia Company, Captain John Crysler commanding. Leeds Militia Rifle Company, total strength 900. 2 miles upstream from the American positions. The terrain favors British tactics. Open fields, muddy ground planted with fall wheat. Marshy woods. The Americans will struggle here. His father, John Morrison, served as Deputy Commissary General in North America. Family relocated to England after the Revolution. Joseph commissioned as ensign in 1793 at age 10. First combat, 1799 at Egmond-on-Zee in the Netherlands. Wounded. Captain 18, 100 Major in the 2nd Battalion. 89th Foot, 1805. Lieutenant Colonel, 1809. 1st West India Regiment in Trinidad. Back to the 89th Regiment, 1811. Arrived Halifax with his regiment, October 13th, 1812. Proceeded to Quebec, spring 1813, 30 years old at Crysler's farm. Veterans of every major battle in Niagara, they know how to fight Americans. November 11th, he orders troops ashore. Time to end this threat before running the long Salt Rapids. Born December 21st, 1764, in Newburyport, Massachusetts. Too young for the Revolution. Army ensign, 1786. Resigned. 1789. Went to India. Mercenary. Raised 3 battalions for Baji Rao II. Fought at Carda, 1795, with 1,800 men. Returned to America, 1808. Colonel of the 4th Infantry. Battle of Tippecanoe. 1811. Promoted brigadier general, War of 1812. Captured Fort George May, 1813. Stubborn. Limited intelligence, nicknamed Tippy Canoe, his weakness about to be fully revealed. Land deeply rutted by ravines, difficult to traverse. Right wing, Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Pearson commanding the Prescott Detachment. Flank companies of the 49th Regiment, light and grenadier companies. Canadian Fencibles Detachment, maybe 150 men total. 6-pounder gun, Canadian Provincial Artillery, buildings on the riverbank. Small gully protecting their front. Behind them, 3 companies of the 2nd Battalion, 89th. 150 men under Captain George Barnes. Behind Barnes. British main body, center companies of the 49th. 160 men under Lieutenant Colonel Charles Plenderleath on the right. 6 companies of the 2nd 89th on the left. 300 men. Morrison himself commanding. 3 6-pounder guns. Royal Artillery, Captain Jackson, posted on a small hillock behind the 49th, firing over their heads. A Mohawk fires at an American scouting party near their camp. Americans reply with a volley. Canadian militia dragoons bolt back, calling the Americans are attacking. Morrison readies his troops. Americans think the British want to fight. Colonel Eleazar Wheelock Ripley's 21st United States Infantry advances, part of Brigadier General Robert Swartwout's brigade. They drive British skirmish line back through the woods, almost a mile. They pause. 12th and 13th United States Infantry from Colonel Isaac Cole's brigade join them. Ripley and Coles resume advance along the wood's edge. Then they see it. A line of redcoats rises from concealment. The 2nd Battalion, 89th on Morrison's left flank, they open fire. British volleys sound like thunder. Americans fire at will. Scattered shots. British fire in unison, disciplined, devastating. The Americans struggle across mud-churned fields. Ripley's regiment takes heavy fire. They fall back confused. Brigadier General Leonard Covington's brigade struggles across a ravine. Musket fire, shrapnel fire raining down. Legend says Covington mistakes the 49th Regiment in gray greatcoats for Canadian militia. He calls out, "Come on, my lads, let us see how you will deal with these militiamen." A moment later, a bullet strikes him, mortal wound. His second in command takes over, killed almost immediately. The brigade loses order, begins retreating. When the guns finally open fire from the road along the riverbank, they're effective. Morrison's second in command, Lieutenant Colonel John Harvey, orders the 49th to capture them. The 49th charges in awkward echelon formation, heavy casualties from American guns, struggling across rail fences. Wheels, the 89th. Quick march towards the new threat, 1 volley, bayonet charge, routs the attackers. The 89th captures an abandoned cannon, takes prisoners. Fails. Horsemen receive volley from Crysler's farm buildings. Shortly after 4 o'clock, Morrison advances his line. Americans in full retreat. Total 181. The 89th Regiment suffers 5 killed and 2 wounded. American losses, 102 killed, 237 wounded, 100 captured. Total 439. Some sources say 120 captured. The man who mistook veterans for militia bleeds out in a farmhouse. Boyd's brigade commander's dead or wounded. His artillery arrived too late, his cavalry ineffective. His infantry disorganized. A force of 2,600 defeated by 900. That evening, American survivors reach Cook's Tavern. November 12th, they reach Cornwall, meet General Jacob Brown's advanced guard. But Hampton's army is nowhere. One of Hampton's staff officers brings news. Hampton, citing lack of supplies, retreated to Plattsburgh. The Southern Army gone. Wilkinson calls another council of war. Officers vote unanimously. End the campaign. Head for winter quarters. The invasion of Montreal abandoned. The St. Lawrence campaign dead. The Americans retreat to French Mills, 7 miles from the St. Lawrence. Roads almost impassable. Lack of supplies. Sickness ravaging the army. They fall back to Plattsburgh. They repel Hampton's force of 2,600 Americans. Hampton retreats. Never joins Wilkinson. The 2 defeats, shadow Gay and Crysler's farm, save Montreal, save Canada, split the invasion force, break American momentum. Terrain advantage, flanks secured, disciplined volleys, coordinated infantry movements, artillery support from land and river. The Canadian Voltigeurs and Tyendinaga Mohawks provide accurate covering fire from woods, picking off Americans as they advance. The 49th and 89th Regiments delivered devastating volleys, parade ground maneuvers under fire, wheeling battalions, advancing in echelon, capturing enemy guns, the kind of discipline that takes years to build. Piecemeal commitment to forces, artillery and cavalry absent when needed, officers inexperienced, troops poorly trained, leadership contradictory, a disaster that should have been an easy victory with superior numbers. His career, already in disrepute, becomes tarnished permanently. He's court-martialed, but exonerated, later found in Spanish employ. Dies 1825 in Mexico trying to secure a land grant, a general who never won a battle or lost a court-martial. Discharged from Army, June 1815. He publishes documents and facts relative to military events during the late war in 1816, personal account defending his actions. Nobody cares. His ruined reputation becomes a cautionary tale. General Winfield Scott becomes so frustrated at political appointees receiving generalships, he lobbies for improved officer training. Scott's campaign to prevent disasters like Chrysler's Farm transforms West Point curriculum. Professional officer corps emerges. Boyd's failure changes American military structure. Battle of Lundy's Lane, July 25th, 1814. The 89th Regiment, one of units, rushed into initial phases, inflicts heavy losses on General Winfield Scott's brigade, but Morrison struck down by bullet early. His regiment loses nearly a third of its numbers. The wound severe, not dangerous. He remains with his battalion in Canada. December 1814 sits on Major General Henry Proctor's court-martial in Montreal, returns to Britain 1815. The wound never fully heals, goes on half-pay. 1816 due to health. August 12th. 1819 promoted brevet colonel. Commands 44th Regiment in Ireland. June 1822 takes battalion to India. 1824 promoted brigadier general. Commands Southeastern Division of Forces in India. Leads successful campaign against Burmese at Arakan. Takes sick with malaria, notorious disease zone. Asks to return home to recover. Dies at sea, February 15th, 1826, during passage from Burma to England, 42 years old. Married Elizabeth Hester Marriott of Worcester, 1809. No children. Moses Saunders Power Dam construction for St. Lawrence Seaway. Monument erected 1895 by Canadian Department of Militia, and Defense moved to Chrysler's Farm Battlefield Park in Morrisburg. Upper Canada Village built nearby. Historical reenactment park. The farmhouse converted to hospital after battle. Wounded treated there, dead buried in field graves. 12 rank and file survived to claim Medal 1847. Canadian government awards battle honor, Chrysler's Farm to successor regiments, 2012, Royal 22nd Regiment, Stormont Dundas and Glengarry Highlanders, Les Voltigeurs de Quebec. 10 United States Army battalions perpetuate lineages of American infantry regiments that fought there. Old 9th, 11th, 13th, 14th, 16th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and 25th Infantry Regiments, 1st through 2nd Infantry, 2nd through 2nd Infantry, 1st through 4th Infantry, 2nd through 4th Infantry, 3rd through 4th Infantry, 1st through 5th Infantry, 2nd through 5th Infantry, 1st through 6th Infantry, 2nd through 6th Infantry, 4th through 6th Infantry. Prime Minister Stephen Harper visits Chrysler's Farm Battlefield Park, November 11th, 2013. Bicentennial of Battle, Remembrance Day, lays wreath at Cenotaph. Contingents from Royal 22nd Regiment, Stormont Dundas and Glengarry Highlanders, Les Voltigeurs de Quebec. Representatives from First Nations who fought there. 3 founding peoples, British regulars, French-speaking Canadians, Mohawk warriors, shoulder to shoulder defending the new country. 2,600 engaged at Chrysler's Farm. 900 British Canadian and Indigenous defenders, 439 American casualties, 181 British Canadian Indigenous casualties, 4-1 numerical advantage. Americans lose. 2-1 casualty ratio favors defenders. Professional training defeats raw numbers. Never again do Americans threaten Montreal in large-scale campaign. British maintained control over St. Lawrence corridor for war duration, critical waterway, lifeblood connecting Upper and Lower Canada, supplies, reinforcements, communications, all flow through that river, cut it, and Canada falls. But 900 men in muddy fields say no. Reality proves different. 3 invasion attempts. 1812, all fail. 1813, supposed to be different. Larger armies, better planning, coordinated offensives, still fails. Chrysler's Farm final proof. Americans can't conquer Canada militarily. News reaches Washington by late November. Madison administration embarrassed. Armstrong under fire. His grand strategy collapsed. Montreal untaken. Army in winter quarters. Nothing gained. Wilkinson's reputation destroyed. Boyd's career finished. Secretary of War's credibility shot. Madison faces re-election 1816. War unpopular in New England. Federalists oppose it. Talk of secession. Hartford Convention brewing. Military failures fuel opposition. Peace talks gain momentum. Don't need to invade America. Just defend Canada. Hold key positions. Maintain indigenous alliances. Let Americans exhaust themselves. British regulars prove superiority over American militia and raw recruits. Canadian loyalty demonstrated. Habitants fight for Canada, Mohawks fight for Crown. Loyalist militia turnout. 3 peoples united against invasion, propaganda victory as significant as military victory. Prevent American conquest. Crysler's farm shows strategy works. Small professional force defeats large amateur army. Proves British regulars still superior. Validates defensive approach. London satisfied. Prevost praised. Morrison rewarded. Ground churned to mud. Wheat stubble makes footing treacherous. Americans advance through ravines, across rail fences, under constant fire. British position on slightly elevated ground. Dry, defensible. River on right. Woods on left. Americans must come straight at them. No flanking options. Perfect defensive position. 20 men fire together. Wall of lead. Something hits target. Rate of fire. Trained soldier fires 4 rounds per minute. British regulars drill constantly. Load, fire, reload. Mechanical, fast, deadly. Americans use similar muskets. Springfield model. 1808, 69 caliber. Slightly smaller ball. Same effective range. Same accuracy problems. But American troops less trained. Fire slower. Aim individually. Less effective than British volleys. Canister at close range. Tin container filled with musket balls. Turns gun into giant shotgun. Devastating at close quarters. Effective range may be 1,000 yards. Rate of fire. 2 rounds per minute with good crew. British crews well trained, accurate, coordinated with infantry. American artillery eventually gets into action. Similar guns, but arrives late, positioned poorly, less effective. British train extensively with bayonet. Charge with fixed bayonets intimidating. Psychological weapon. Americans less trained. Fear bayonet charges. Often break before contact. Crysler's farm sees multiple bayonet charges. 89th Regiment particularly effective. Cold steel wins battles. Uniforms matter. British regulars wear red coats, white cross belts, black shakos. 49th Regiment in gray greatcoats at Crysler's farm. November cold, but gray makes them look like militia. Covington's fatal error. Canadian voltigeurs wear dark green, light infantry uniform, easier to hide. Better for skirmishing. Mohawk warriors wear a mix of traditional and European clothing. Adapt to conditions. Americans wear blue coats, white cross belts, similar to British, easily confused in smoke and chaos. 24 warriors from Thayendanegea under interpreter Lieutenant Charles Anderson. Mississauga warriors from Peterborough area. They deploy in woods, skirmish line, accurate fire, pick off American officers and sergeants, create confusion. Americans fear indigenous warriors, reputation for ferocity. The Mohawks fire first shot at dawn, alert British to American movement. Throughout battle, they harass American flanks from tree cover. Americans can't dislodge them, can't advance effectively with warriors on their flank. Crown alliance dating back generations. Joseph Brant led Mohawks in Revolutionary War, fought for Britain, settled Thayendanegea after war, land grant in Upper Canada. By 1813, new generation fights, same loyalty, same tactical skill. They know American intentions. Invasion threatens their lands, their families, their way of life. This isn't abstract conflict, this is home defense. Create chaos, psychological warfare. Americans terrified of fighting indigenous warriors. Stories of torture, scalping, most exaggerated, some true. Fear is weapon itself. Mohawks use it. Fire from concealed positions. Disappear. Reappear elsewhere. Americans never know where next shot comes from. Nerves fray. Discipline breaks. Anderson makes that work. His contribution often overlooked. Cultural mediator in heat of battle. Essential role. Deadly accurate. Drive back initial American probes. Fall back to main line when pressed. Re-engage from cover. Their fire discipline exceptional. Boats clustered at Cook's Point. Constant harassment. Americans must deploy troops to guard against landing. Diverts forces from main battle. Gunboat fire disrupts American formations. Keeps them off balance. British 3-6-pounders fire from hillock behind 49th Regiment. Over their heads at American formations. Canadian provincial artillery 6-pounder with Pearson's right wing. Americans eventually get 6 guns into action. Too late. Infantry already retreating. But American guns inflict last-minute casualties when British try to capture them. Dragoons save all but 1 cannon. Steady under fire. They deliver volleys in parade ground precision, then charge in echelon to capture American guns, take heavy casualties crossing rail fences under artillery fire. But they press on. Discipline, training, experience, everything that makes British infantry feared. The 89th Regiment, equally impressive. 6 companies with Morrison in main body, 3 companies with Barnes behind Pearson. They're newer to North America. Arrived 1812, but they're well-trained, Irish recruited. When Covington's brigade deploys, they rise from concealment and fire. Devastating effect. Later, Morrison wheels them to meet Boyd's diversion attack. 1 volley, bayonet charge, enemy routed. They capture cannon and prisoners. At Lundy's Lane 9 months later, they'll fight brilliantly again. Lose a third of their strength. Morrison wounded there too. They hold buildings on Riverbank, deliver volleys, help anchor right flank. Stretcher bearers, they carry wounded to farmhouse hospital. Bury dead, essential support roles. Leeds Rifle Company may be present, small unit, sharpshooters. Surgeons work through night, November 11th into November 12th. Amputations, bullet extractions, binding wounds, men screaming, dying, blood-soaked floors. Both sides medical personnel overwhelmed. Many die from wounds in following days. Infection, blood loss, shock. Winter cold makes recovery harder. Surgeons probe wounds with fingers, extract lead, cut away damaged tissue. Amputations common. Shattered limbs beyond saving, saw through bone, cauterize with hot iron. Survival rate may be 50%. Covington receives treatment, bullet wound to abdomen. Surgeons can't extract ball. Internal bleeding. Dies 3 days later. Other officers wounded. Captain Barnes of 89th takes bullet, survives. Lieutenant Colonel Harvey, bruised badly, continues fighting. Private soldiers less fortunate. Many die untreated. Overwhelmed medical staff prioritize officers. Hard reality of military medicine. Farmers find bones for years after. Musket balls, buttons, remnants. They recognize faces sometimes, neighbors, relatives. Americans buried in rows. Quick work, shallow graves, 18 inches deep. Frozen ground resists shovels. British buried with more ceremony. Still quick, still shallow. Officers get individual graves, markers. Enlisted men in mass graves. No markers, forgotten. Americans capture few British, maybe a dozen stragglers. British capture over 100 Americans. Wounded mostly, can't retreat. Left behind, British treat them decently. Same surgeons, same hospital, same care. By December, they're exchanged, return to American lines, tell stories. Describe British professionalism, Mohawk ferocity, Canadian courage. Stories spread, American morale sinks further. Enemy threat eliminated. Americans flee downriver, demoralized, cold, hungry, disease spreading, winter coming, campaign over. Months of preparation, thousands of soldiers, hundreds of boats, all for nothing. Montreal untouched, St. Lawrence still British, Canada still defending. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. Canadian voltigeurs, equally important. French-Canadian soldiers defending against invasion. Unity of three peoples, not just British victory, but Canadian victory, Indigenous victory. Shared defense of homeland. Nurses, they tend wounded in farmhouse hospital. Comfort dying men. Write letters to families. After battle, they help bury dead. Care for survivors. Their contribution unpaid, unrecognized, essential. Unity in crisis. Small force defeating larger enemy through superior training and positioning. Story taught in schools, commemorated in museums, reenacted at historical parks, part of national mythology. The battle that saved Canada. 21st century excavations at Battlefield Park. Metal detectors finding musket balls, buttons, belt plates, fragments of daily life. Scientific analysis revealing soldier origins. Lead isotope testing on musket balls shows British manufacture. Bone fragments from graves analyzed. Diet, health. Age at death. Material culture studies examining uniform pieces, weapon fragments, personal items. St. Lawrence, partially ice-covered at edges. Boats struggling in cold water, men soaked. Hypothermia risk. British troops sleep outside November 10th. Little protection from elements. But they're ready at dawn. Discipline overcomes discomfort. Defensive positioning, use of terrain, coordination of arms, infantry, artillery, naval support, combined operations, small unit tactics, voltigeur skirmishing, Indigenous warrior deployment, British linear tactics, American failures in coordination, leadership, training, all analyzed. Applied to modern contexts. He recognizes it immediately, takes position, waits, lets enemy come to him. Classic economy of force, maximum effect from limited resources. Poor reconnaissance, underestimated enemy, overconfident in numbers, failed to concentrate force, classic failures, still taught as what not to do. 181 British Canadian Indigenous casualties, equal grief, equal loss. Winners and losers both bleed, both bury friends, both carry wounds, physical and mental. War's arithmetic, cold, numbers on paper, but each number a person, name, family, dreams. All ended or altered on muddy November field. Don't recognize enemy quality, pay with lives. Covington dies November 14th, 3 days after battle, buried near battlefield. Later re-exhumed, moved, family plot. His name lives on. Covington, Louisiana, named for him, small memorial. Forgotten general, fatal mistake. Morrison's wound at Lundy's Lane. July 1814 changes his trajectory, severe enough to end active field service. He never fully recovers, spends rest of life in pain. India posting should be desk command. Instead, he leads combat operations against Burmese. Malaria takes him. Disease not enemy bullets. Common end for British officers in tropics, India, Burma, Africa. Mosquitoes kill more soldiers than combat. Morrison survives battlefield only to die at sea, returning home. Bitter irony. Hero of Crysler's farm dies sick and feverish on ship. No glory, no ceremony. Buried at sea or in foreign ground. His legacy, the battle, 900 against 4,000. Victory snatched from impossible odds. Farm the land, find artifacts, musket balls in walls, bones in fields. Then Seaway Project comes. Government expropriates land. Entire area flooded. Creates Lake St. Lawrence. Power generation. Navigation. Modern needs trump historical preservation. Farmhouse demolished. Field submerged. Battlefield underwater. Monument relocated. Visitors now stand on hill looking at lake. Original battlefield below surface. Ghostly. Appropriate. Battle itself like dream. 900 men holding line. Impossible odds. Yet they won. Now it sleeps beneath cold water. Preserved by forgetting. Upper Canada Village recreates 1860s life. Not 1813, but close enough. Visitors see how people lived, worked, farmed. Soldiers would recognize buildings, layout, technologies, connection to past tangible. Battlefield Park separate, monuments, plaques, interpretation panels. Historical markers. Visitors walk ground imagining where skirmish line formed, where volleys rang out, where men fell. Imagination fills gaps, history comes alive. Camp life, public loves it, educational, entertaining, but it's sanitized. No blood, no screaming, no terror. Real battle was chaos, noise, smoke, confusion, men crying from others, begging for water, dying in mud. Reenactment can't capture that. Shouldn't try, but it honors memory. Keeps story alive. New generations learn. Parks Canada Archaeological Reports. 2023 excavations. American sources from Library of Congress, National Archives, Washington, State Historical Societies, academic journals, Military History Quarterly, Canadian Historical Review, War of 1812 Studies. Donald Graves' Field of Glory. The Battle of Crysler's Farm. 1813, published 1999 by Robin Brass Studio. Primary source materials, Morrison's official reports, Boyd's correspondence, Wilkinson's dispatches, soldier letters, newspaper accounts from 1813, Quebec Gazette, Kingston Gazette, American papers, all consulted, all verified, facts checked against multiple sources, contradictions noted, best evidence selected. Historical fact, documented, verified, names recorded, numbers counted, ground surveyed, evidence examined. This happened. Real men, real battle, real consequences. Major battles that defined War of 1812 in Canadian theatre, each crucial, each changed momentum, each saved Canada from conquest. But Crysler's Farm perhaps most impressive. Smallest defending force, largest numerical disadvantage, most complete tactical victory. Morrison's 900 rout, Boyd's 2,600. Force American Army to abandon entire campaign. Strategic impact enormous. Mississauga warriors from Peterborough. They're not auxiliaries, not sidekicks. They're essential. Their fire from woods pins American flanks. Their reputation demoralizes enemy. Their tactical skill in skirmishing superior to European-trained troops in forest warfare. Without them, British position weaker, victory less certain. Their descendants deserve recognition, their sacrifice honored, their tactical genius acknowledged. Fall back in order, re-engage effectively, Canadian Fencibles holding right, Dundas Militia supporting throughout. These are Canadians defending Canada, not British defending colony. Distinction matters. 1813, Canada evolving, distinct identity forming, British, French, Indigenous. Together, defending shared homeland, Chrysler's Farm moment of unity, 3 peoples, 1 battle, 1 victory. Trenches, gun emplacements, graves, artifact scatter patterns show troop movements. Concentration of musket balls indicates firing positions. British volleys leave signature, tight groupings. American fire scattered. Individual aim, each pattern tells story. Science confirming historical accounts. Validating sources, adding detail. Understand battle flow, revolutionary methodology, applied to other War of 1812 sites. Rewriting understanding of multiple battles. Constant struggle, yet they fought, endured, prevailed. Their physical remains testament to resilience, courage, determination. Unity of purpose. They didn't win through luck, they won through professionalism. The British regulars drilled endlessly. The Canadian voltigeurs trained hard. The Mohawk warriors brought generations of tactical knowledge. Morrison planned carefully, positioned wisely, led decisively. Boyd delayed. Hesitated. fumbled. Numbers meant nothing when one side knew its business and the other didn't. Thunder across fields, Americans broke, retreated, fled, Montreal saved, Canada saved, St. Lawrence secure. Buried together hastily. November 1813, frozen ground, quick interment. They lay there 145 years, then disturbed, reburied elsewhere. But that grave tells final truth. Winners and losers sleep together. War makes equals of all. The field belongs to the fallen. 900 held the line, but 181 paid. Their bones in Canadian soil, their sacrifice remembered, their victory complete,